And we move now to another round of the Town Challenge Cup. Leander Club on the left-hand side of your screen and Molesey Boat Club on the right.
Nice clean start from both crews. The Leander under 23 development squad on their home stretch, and Molesey from not too far away along the Thames there. Molesey in black and white here, just doing a little bit of steering away from the boys. Probably got a bit freaked out by starting to see very close to their blades on that right-hand side of the picture. So the umpire's going to keep an eye on them there.
Yeah, they're going to have to be careful here, Molesey. We can see them just adjusting their steering. Perhaps quite aggressive on the footplate there with the steering. Because it looked like there was a little catch of the water, but they'll have to be very careful here. Those blades are getting mighty close.
Yeah, both crews are close to the middle here. Leander being warned away, and as you often see in this case, Molesey also moving at the same time. They both want to get apart. They both want a clean race, but at this point, they're probably striking stroke for stroke, woman for woman, trying to get out of the very fast start zone and into the race. And we should say this, although we're the third day of Henley, this is the first round of this event, so the nerves are there for all four of the women in each of the boats.
Yes, and we just saw a previous round come down just a couple of races ago. We saw Oxford University bow out on the first day of competition here in the Town Challenge Cup. They lost in the first round at Women's Henley to the US Naval Academy, and the US Naval Academy then went on to knock out Leander in the second round. But currently they are having it all their way. It's still early days yet in this race, but they are leading Molesey Boat Club, who I think probably got knocked off a little bit with those steering adjustments early in the race.
Yeah, I think they look like they're coming quite close together again here, looking like Molesey's moving across a little bit far from our catamaran following the two crews here. The steerswoman in the Molesey boat sitting in the two-seat, Marie Grant, and look, you can see Molesey are now rowing in the puddles of the Leander crew. Now here the umpire will be looking and saying, is this affecting the outcome of the race? And now he's warning Molesey away, even though they're behind. It's a disadvantage for them to be rowing those puddles, Sarah.
Yeah, look, they really need to take care of their steering here, Molesey Boat Club, because they're not doing themselves any favours. I think that knocked quite a bit of speed off those adjustments they had to make in the early part of the race. But also here, as you say, Matt, rowing in the dirty water of Leander, but both those crews coming towards each other once again.
I think they're having some trouble keeping that Molesey boat straight at the moment. Maybe there's a bit of a timing discrepancy. You can see they're coming back into the puddles again, and the umpire's going to warn Molesey again. Now this is quite disruptive, because if you're not steering, you're wondering what the hell's going on, and it's distracting you from your rowing. And Marie Grant at 2 is struggling with 1 foot to keep the boat on the true line.
And sometimes the difficulty is for those rowers on stroke side whose blades are very close, they get spooked, and so instinctively you want to not pull as hard when you think that you're going to have a crash, which will then compound the issue, because of course then bow side will pull the boat further around towards what you're trying to avoid. So it's really important that the steers person gets it right and that they adjust as quickly as possible when they get that call from the stewards, because you don't want your teammates, like you say, starting to get rattled about what's going on.
Exactly, and let's think about the other crew in this context, because all 4 of them, Rachel Heap, Juliette Perry, Charlotte Fennell and Olivia Caesar, sitting in the stroke seat of the Leander crew, they can see Molesey struggling with the steering, and they're just thinking, right, we can just push on, let's just hold them off, let's be efficient about it. We know they're going to struggle, and there's Molesey again starting. Maybe they've got a bit of a problem with the rudder. You can almost see that they've got something, maybe there's something interfering the rudder. Can you see a little bit of a trace coming off the back of that boat? I'm not sure, but they definitely aren't having a straight row all the way down this course.
It does look like I think you're quite right, it looks like either they're dragging something on their fin, or that they've really got the rudder on hard to compensate for mismatched pressures or something like that. There is something happening there, because that is quite a significant little weight that's coming off their stern.
Yeah, and they're really having a go at it now, the women from Molesey, aren't they? They're really trying to attack to get back on terms with the Leander crew. They're putting in a real push, but I think they are struggling. Sometimes you could have maybe knocked the fin of the boat, which is the thing that's trying to keep it straight, which is critical for the rudder to work against. So maybe they've had a knock there, or maybe it's just one of those things where they're just not having their day in the office that they want to have. So it's a tough row from the women from Molesey. Christy Stone in the stroke seat, trying to attack and attack and attack. Still got a little bit of overlap, we can see on the 3/4 mile signal there, with the 2 numbers showing overlapping between the crews.
We can see both of these crews. It's quite evident that Molesey are having some struggles with their steering. We see the crew on screen there. Yasmin Treadle in the bow seat, Mary Grant in 2, Imogen Magna in 3, and Christy Stone in the stroke seat.
Some good experience in the Leander crew here. Rachel sitting at bow, Rachel Heap. This is a 4th Henley Royal Regatta. So one thing that's very nice when you've got a bow person who's got the level of experience, she can talk to the rest of the crew, keep them calm, keep them focused on their race. You know, this is our race, and sometimes it's about knowing when to hold and not push. Sometimes it's about to smell the opportunity and just push on a little bit. But right now, I think that the women from Leander will be feeling quite good about where they are in this race.
Yeah, look, they're looking very composed. Molesey, again, from this angle, we can see really struggling. Their boat really wanting to come to stroke side for some reason, whether that's pressure or weed or steering, or we're not quite sure what the issue is, but they do keep steering towards the middle here. Leander well clear, so they're not going to be impacted at this point. However, that's not an ideal place for Molesey to be. They're going to get washed down, and that's only going to make things more difficult for them.
I think we should say, you know, we see a lot of coxless falls on this track, and it is not at all easy. I mean, really, to steer a boat like this in these conditions, when you know that on one side of you, you've got a very hard obstacle. If you hit it, you really your race could be over. So many of the crews make it look easy. It really is not an easy thing to do.
It's also quite deceptive. I know every time I watch the video, I think, there's miles of room, what's wrong with these rowers? But then being on that piece of water and having steered a quad myself, it's amazing how much smaller it feels, and for some reason those hard booms just seem to be closing in on you, and you do feel as though you're a lot closer than you actually are.
Yeah, and looking at the Leander crew, I mean, they're clearly more confident, they're longer in the water now, they're able to take a lower number of strokes per minute, and I think that's really helping them just continue to open up a gap over Molesey, who really must be tiring now. You know, they're reaching the enclosure, you can hear the applause and the joy in seeing a race coming past from the stewards' enclosure here as we look down towards the finish line, perhaps 300 metres away now. And the final attack from Molesey, and Leander just staying calm, keeping their heads in the boat and focusing on a clean last few strokes.
Yeah, this strong crew from Leander Club, they're part of the development squad at Leander. A number of these athletes heading off to US universities. Olivia Caesar in the stroke seat, she'll be going to UCLA in September. Charlotte Fennell in the 3 seat will be going over to Yale University. So a very strong crew here, progressing through to the Saturday in the Town Challenge Cup for Leander Club, defeating Molesey Boat Club